Well, hello, Shark fans. So it is officially Shark Week 2025, and I thought I'd be doing something new, right? So I'm going to start actually reviewing some of the Shark Week shows that they show every night, giving my honest critique, whether I was entertained, what I believe, um, maybe covering some shark facts, things of that nature. So let's just dive right into it. First off, so I'm going to be reviewing them basically the day after because right after the shows, I'm going to bed. All right. Unfortunately, I am no longer a nocturnal shark. All right. I need to be active during the daytime. Right. So dawn and dusk is when I'm most active. That's how we go. That's how we go. So, um, yesterday, the first show was Dancing with the Sharks. And something that I did not expect is that show would almost be controversial, right? I saw because I am a part of a lot of shark communities online. Of course, we stay strong with each other, but the shark community hated that show, and I was confused. Not confused on why they hated it, but it's just like I didn't expect the backlash that so many shark fans gave that show. Like I didn't see I'm not gonna say not one. It was like 98% hatred for that show, and 2% like, oh, okay, it was cool. I could not believe that. Um, but so honestly, first off, I'm gonna give a huge shout out to those divers because it takes a tremendous amount of courage to even try something like that. I am a licensed scuba diver, so I've been in the water with sharks. I understand, but like to try and get them, or even you, to do that many dance moves with sharks around you, it's too much multitasking, and it's like dangerous multitasking. So that was insane to me. So shout out to them for even doing it in the first place. But let's get to what they were talking about, right? Um, so the good parts of it was that it was entertaining, right? So for non-shark fans, right, people like my wife, right, she was entertained by the show, so it pulled her into Shark Week, right? I can't be mad at that, right? I feel as though Shark Week is for the intermittent fan and for those who are not necessarily like into sharks like that, but are like seeking more entertainment. Like I feel like Shark Week is geared for the casual shark fan and below, right? Versus Shark Fest. So Shark Fest is more heavy in the science and the research. So if you're a hardcore sharker, if you're a hardcore researcher, then Shark Fest I feel is more suited for you. Shark Week is more for the casual fan, right? Casual fan and below. Um, so with that being said, I feel like Dancing with the Sharks did its job, right? It was entertaining, right? It has some stakes where you was just like, whoa, like what's going on? This is a little dangerous. But it showed that they were having fun. And then, of course, shout out to Jamie, who was the first winner. I'm going to say probably the only winner because I doubt they're going to bring this back with the way that people were reacting. But we'll see how the general public treats that show. But shout out to Jamie. You did a fantastic job. You were definitely showcasing your natural ability to dance and move and representing for the Caribbean. So that was dope. That was really dope. The judges, it felt like they were like the judges were balanced in their careers and the representation, right? But it also felt like the judges were supposed to be the traditional, like, you know, Simon Cowell, um, and other judges, right? It felt like it was supposed to be the mean one, the level-headed one, and the comedic relief, right? That's kind of what it felt like it was supposed to be. Although with the American Idol judges, I don't know who was supposed to be comedic relief, but you get what I'm saying, right? Um, yeah, um, their judging was fair, although they didn't give like a numerical system. It was just like they give feedback and then that was it. But it felt fair. Although the marine biologist, I don't remember her name, but she felt kind of mean. I'm not gonna lie. I felt like she was coming for everybody. Like, all right, cool, yeah, it was fun, but here's the sharks, and it was just like, yo, like, calm down a little bit. But I get it. Um, so from my civilian, if I'm wearing my civilian hat, right, the civilian in me says that that show was really fun and entertaining. It was engaging. It made you feel like, whoa, all right. The scientist side of me now, right? The scientist side of me, I was not in love with all of the contact, right? I feel like there was a lot of. I know that these are people who may do this professionally, but I do feel as though that you're constantly told about having direct contact with the sharks. Now, as a shark scientist and as a diver, you may know that a little bit of contact doesn't necessarily hurt, right? It did feel as though it was an unnecessary amount of contact, right? In wrangling the sharks, like when you're diving with sharks, the only real contact that you're having is just for safety, to make sure that they're going in a direction that does not put you or any of the other divers in danger. So it's like that's what it's primarily for. So this unnecessary contact, purely for entertainment purposes. I mean, of course, it's for staying away from danger in this case, but it's primarily for entertainment. It felt like irresponsible almost, right? There was that aspect. Also, the three species that we really saw engaged in this show, right? We saw tiger sharks, we saw great hammerheads, and we saw nurse sharks, right? The great hammerhead, I feel like, was like the main shark, right? That everybody was kind of going for, because it was the most active as far as swimming around and keep coming back to the bait box. The tiger shark was like, it's like a special guest almost. Like the tiger shark came in when it felt like it, and when it came in, it was like, I'm here for food. I'm boss. It is what it is, right? But it was really the tiger shark and the hammerhead who were fighting for the spotlight. And the nurse sharks just felt like a nuisance. Like, granted, no, I love nurse sharks. I swam with a lot of I love nurse sharks. It's not that they're annoying, but they were all over the place. They were all under the divers' feet. It was like the divers could not land without almost accidentally stepping on a nurse shark. And at one point, maybe even 2 points, I feel like they did. There was one woman who I do believe she did kind of land on a nurse shark, but then felt it and then readjusted her feet. Right? So it was like that part felt so dangerous, right? So there's definitely that part. Overall, I don't know if I was to rate it 1 to 10. I would probably give it like a 7.5. Because it was entertaining. To me, it wasn't a terrible start to Shark Week. For what I view Shark Week as, right? That's what I'm gonna say. All right, now moving on. Right now we have the second show, and that was Air Jaws, right? The Hunt for Colossus. And it's like, all right, boom. First of all, we got exactly what we wanted because we got who we wanted. All right? We got the ABC4 Explorer. We got the man himself, Andy Dandy Casagrande. All right, Andy Casagrande, who is a Shark Week favorite. We love seeing him on camera. We love seeing him engage with the sharks because he's just such a well-known, versatile, respected cinematographer who is definitely doing his thing, right? So I love seeing him in shows. He's one of my favorites. I follow him online, so excellent job as always. And then a hero in the shark community, right? Paul DeGelder. Paul DeGelder and Andy Casagrande together on the same show? Gold! Automatic, right? These are two researchers um, or shark enthusiast, and a cinematographer slash. Both of them are conservationists. They both fight for, um, you know, shark well-being and their preservation. For both of them, it was like I would love to meet both of them. At some point in my life, I would love to be either a part of a dive, a part of some research, or something. I would love to meet both of them. If that happens, all right. But um, you did have both of them on the show. You did also have Allison Towns, right? Who's an amazing shark researcher. She comes off so calm. Like if I was doing research and I had her there as one of the lead researchers, I would feel very at ease. Like it does nothing really seems stressful to her, right? It's just like sharks. Yeah, cool. Like that's really it. There's the natural excitement that she has for doing research that she loves, but there's nothing. It doesn't feel. I would not feel in danger at all. I was working with her. So yeah, those are your three people. Pretty much, headlining the show. And what the show was is they were trying to find Colossus. Colossus was a very or is because I'm hoping that he's still alive, and I do believe that he is a very famous male great white shark that was first filmed. It was either 2012 or 2013, right? And it was last seen officially, I believe, in 2018. There have been some reports, but confirmed whether or not it was actually him, of course, is a little bit harder to justify, right? So they spent the entire show trying to find Colossus, right? In the waters of Australia, right, and New Zealand, back and forth. And honestly speaking, it was very interesting to try and see them try and locate this one shark, which if you know in doing research is nearly impossible, right? Unless you have known locations where these sharks frequent, like this specific individual frequents, it's almost impossible to try and locate one individual in the entire ocean. The ocean is a big place, right? Which is what makes shark research and honestly any marine biology related research in general fairly difficult, right? The ocean's a big place. So trying to find one shark, it's like almost trying to find one drop of water, one specific drop of water in the ocean. That's what it feels like. But it was dope. It was definitely a dope show. This was much more science intensive. You did also notice that although they were looking for the one shark, they definitely took every opportunity to try and do their own research, right? To try and make sure that they, didn't let any opportunities, swim by, you know. So they were also, I felt like Andy and Paul were heavier in just trying to catch footage of breaches, right? Trying to get those footage of breaches. They brought back out the seal sled and put Paul on the seal sled. First of all, it was like, Andy, you are messed up for doing that to Paul over and over again. But at the same time, I know Paul loved it. And I know for a fact that I do it too. So I'm not even mad. But there was a moment when Paul, when he was first got on the seal sled and the boat started to go. And he said it. He sat too far back and didn't properly distribute his weight on the sled. So it caused the sled to sink and he started to go underwater. And I think everybody was just a little nervous at that point. It was just like, whoa. Because he said, you heard him. He said, help, help. He said he screamed for help at one point. And I'm like, and then of course, that's when they decided to go to the commercial. So it's like, come on, man. But I'm like, there's no way they would have aired this footage if anything bad happened to Paul. So I'm like, I know he's okay. But that was a close call. I was like, whoa. And on top of it's like you saw it like he was about to drown almost, right? He went underwater. He's wearing a wool beanie too, which I'm like, that's not gonna be fun getting wet. You thought about that first, and then second, it was like, oh crap, but he's in the water with a bunch of great whites. Like, it's a lot going on right now. It's a lot happening. So that was a little nerve wracking. But I'm happy to see that he got out of that okay. We love you, Paul. All right. All right, now Allison was more so interested in trying to find migration patterns, right? Where these sharks were going. Of course, because those nuisance killer whales have been going all over the place, everywhere from Africa to Australia, just disturbing the place and redistributing a lot of the white sharks, right? So she's been trying to, track their migration patterns, where they've been going. They've already established that certain hotspots, of course, but the more we understand where these sharks are going, the easier it is to protect them or at least fight for their protection. So she was much heavier on just collecting that data and making sure that we know what these sharks are doing, where they're going, so that we can protect them. And that was dope. Now, at the very end, though, because of course we can't lose sight of what the actual show is about. It's trying to find Colossus. And you saw a bunch of sharks breaching. We saw some large individuals, right? Colossus was first measured, I believe, at like 15 feet. They were estimating that he should be at about 20 feet now. I feel like they are experts, right? I am a marine biologist by training, but I haven't been as active in the field, so I'm not going to question their expertise, although I do feel that 20 feet is an embellishment and it's a little bit of them being generous. I would probably gauge him more, because especially males don't grow that large typically. But if he was still alive, of course, if you're in the ocean, you have indeterminate growth. As long as you're staying alive, you're able to grow bigger. It would be nice if he had 18 feet. 18, 19, right, for me. But if he was 20, let's go. Yeah. There was one individual, the very last shark filmed to breach, that it could have been Colossus. And that was kind of exciting. I feel like that was like a cliffhanger for them to keep this going for next year, right? Because when they showed that shark breaching, and Allison at the very end reviewed the footage to see if she can identify the shark as being Colossus, she came to the conclusion that there's not enough evidence to support that being as a positive ID of Colossus. It did have a similar indentation, right, at the front part of the dorsal fin, which Colossus does show, right? So there was a similarity there, but it wasn't enough to confirm. The fan in me, I'm not going to lie, that was Colossus. You can't convince me otherwise. That was Colossus. I do honestly believe there was a good chance that was Colossus. And honestly, in my personal time, I'm probably going to review that just to see if I can identify him myself. Because there are more markings that you can use outside of the dorsal fin. So I'm probably going to see if I can do it as a personal project. Was that Colossus? I think it was, personally. But we'll see. Only time can tell. All right. So now we have the last show. And the last show was Great White Serial Killers, right? This show was almost personal to me because if I do get back into the marine biology game, this is some of the research, not exactly, but adjacent to some of the research that I want to do, right? I want to do interactions between large apex predators, right? So this show is primarily looking at the interactions between orcas and great whites, right? Because within the community, we've learned that orcas primarily show dominance in whatever area they're in hunting great whites for their livers, like strategically and very precise, and removing their livers, right? But that's primarily seen as like a group activity because what they do is they allow the orcas, the orcas in a group or in a family, they will corral the shark into one area, right? While another individual is then able to either sneak in or corner the shark, and then that individual basically takes the shark out, can either flip it into tonic immobility or sometimes even dive under and then ram the shark, whatever method the orca uses, because orcas are extremely intelligent mammalian brains, right? They're extremely intelligent, so they've devised a number of different methods in taking out sharks. They're efficient at it, right? But it's typically been seen as a group effort. So what this was showing is that there's a new behavior exhibited where you have individual orcas trying to take out great whites. And that's new. And that's interesting, right? Because why, right? Is this a learned behavior? Is this only in specific individuals? Is there something that's causing this, the solitary behavior, hunting behavior, instead of the group behavior? Are they targeting specific individuals for some reason? Like what actually is it? So that was a very interesting show. And heavier on the science. So the first show, of course, was more for entertainment, and the other two were more research based and heavier in science. But honestly speaking, that show was good. That show also featured Allison as well. This one was Allison, and I hope I do not pronounce his name incorrectly. Dickie Cheville, right? I've already given Allison her flowers, of course. Dickie has joined in, I want to say, the last few years of Shark Week, and he's known for some crazy antics and fearlessness, right? Because he's willing to get in the water with these sharks with some bonkers contraptions where, yeah, you're in danger, buddy. Like if you watch The Simpsons and you've ever seen that character who goes, "I'm in danger," that's Dickie. He just does things with a smile on his face. But buddy, I'm not gonna lie, I would do pretty much all of it with you. Not gonna lie. If it meant I was on a Shark Week, I'm doing it. But they were basically looking at it from the perspective of the great whites. And they hypothesized that the great whites may have a blind spot, right? That allows orcas to sneak up behind them and take advantage, right? And that the orcas have realized this and are now using this as a new hunting strategy. So they were trying to basically, confirm whether or not sharks do have this blind spot, and does that give orcas an opportunity to now exploit this? I'm not gonna lie. The research itself is kind of hard to fully justify in the aspect of our mere presence in the water changes the animal's behavior, right? To an extent. So you can create an experiment, but it's difficult, depending on the type of experiment, to remove the human aspect and how that may, influence the animal's behavior, the shark's behavior. But with that being said, one of the things that I thought was pretty dope, they actually tried to build, it wasn't like a full-size orca, because it wasn't a huge orca, but like a comparative size orca. Like he built a model orca that he can now swim around in. Like it was basically like almost like an underwater cage, but dressed as an orca. And just trying to test shark behavior. I think they also built like a model orca head, and were seeing if they could tap the sharks, right, in the area where the liver is. So I'm actually going to show you what that looks like. So I have a 4D model great white here, right? It's my baby. So they believed that the orca, well, the great whites may have a blind spot basically here, right? The ventral side, the underbelly, right? That the orca is exploiting to then attack the liver here. Now you see how large this liver is, rich in nutrients, which is why orcas love it. Dickey was able to tap several sharks in this area, right? Showcasing the ability to do it. I'm not fully convinced that this means that sharks have a blind spot here. But I also cannot take it off the table in stating that they don't. Right? Maybe they do. We are fully aware that sharks have several senses, but one of the things that they pointed out is that because the shark may be fixated on something else, that allows an opening for the shark to be distracted enough for the orca to now attack. And that does have some merit to me. So it sounds like a new kind of like frontier in the research. I personally, again, would love to do interactions among these large apex predators. And I'm hoping that one day I'm able to get back in the ocean to do that. Specifically orca and great white. But yeah, that was your 3 shows. And honestly speaking, to me, I enjoyed my first day of Shark Week. So, shark lovers, I don't know about you. I'm ready for day 2. And let's see what the tide brings in. All right. Till next time.